You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Well, hello there. Glad to have you back for episode 2, The Circumstances Beyond Your Control. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, this is going to be a fun one, but it's going to be pretty deep. So let's start with the fact that another thing you should know about me is that I'm a nature buff. Maybe that has to do with being born in nature. Gosh, if you didn't hear the first episode, go back and listen to that one so you'll get it. Total tree hugger. My son, he is 11, is putting together a virtual city, kind of like, your old school Sim City, right? Only he has an Xbox version of this that he just got the other day. So he is really digging in, building his cities and having his people and building his power grids, which are clean energy wind turbine driven, by the way. Super proud. So he built a nature preserve for me in his city. That was one of the first things that he did. And I just adore it. All kinds of trees, walking trails, fun things right on the edge of town. And the last time I checked in with him earlier this afternoon, there was an elephant sanctuary. So I'm super stoked with the things that he's coming up with. Of course, he's getting his schoolwork done first, you all. But I mean, hey, this is a huge learning experience, right? I mean, he is literally dealing with natural disasters. Actually, need to back up a little bit. The elephant sanctuary came before the meteor strike and the tornado. So he's dealing with some things right now. Maybe I'll have a little bit of time to talk to you about circumstances. In my first episode, I introduced the concept that your feelings, your emotions, are created by your thoughts and your thoughts alone. Not what someone else says to you, not what you've been conditioned or come to understand as reality, because your reality is created in your brain. There are things that appear in your life that are neutral. And some of these things that I'm going to review with you and use as examples may surprise you a little bit, but I need you to stick with me and really dig into this work and be able to combine this information with the information from episode 1, okay? There are things that appear in your life that are neutral, and this happens every day, every hour, all the damn time. We call them circumstances. So you've probably heard the term, the circumstances beyond your control. So what are the specific circumstances beyond your control? Because that has a totally new meaning to me now based on the training that I've had and the information that I have been able to process over time that I'm going to share with you now, okay? Circumstances are neutral. I'm going to say this, I'm going to get repetitive, but I need you to hear it. I need you to receive it. So from this point forward, when you hear me use the word circumstance, know that I'm coming from a place of neutrality. Absolute, pure neutrality. Situations just are. They don't mean a thing until we have a thought about them. And neutrality means, by definition, according to Google, impartial and unbiased. Only there are all kinds of experiences that seem to contradict this. Our brains just go, processing everything that happens around us to find meaning, to find purpose, to find why. So much so that we seem to have lost what impartial and unbiased means. We turn our thoughts into beliefs over time, even forming dogmas, things that we believe to be absolute truths. Yet, now more than ever, it's time to release the hold on that notion. This is a huge step toward finding your own power through realizing what you can truly control. We have a hard time, we being humans, the humans, have a hard time finding neutral because we continually search for meaning around the events that happen in our lives. And what we don't realize many times or recognize is that answers like meaning come from our thoughts about the events, not the events themselves. Answers like meaning come from our thoughts about the events, not the events themselves. Circumstances just are what they are. And as I explained in episode 1, the feeling that we have about the things that happen in our lives come from those thoughts that we have about something neutral. So let's do some examples of things that are absolutely neutral. You ready for this? Neutral. Your height and your weight. Neutral. What your mother said. That post or comment on your favorite social media platform. COVID-19. Life and death. These are circumstances. These do not create our feelings. These events in and of themselves are neutral. And several of these things I just said may seem loaded. Perhaps all of them do. But the real truth is none of these things are loaded. Not one thing that I just mentioned is loaded until you bring your thoughts into the equation. So let's prove this by adding some thoughts to that which is neutral, to the things that I just listed. Let me add some thoughts to height, right? That might be the easiest one to grasp. It is what it is. It can't be changed. Sure, you can wear platform shoes to add height temporarily, whatever. But what is your thought about it? What is your thought about your height? I'm too short. I'm too tall. That's where your feelings come into play. Not with the simple fact of how tall you are when you stand up. Weight. I'm too fat. I'm too thin. Well, that can be changed, right? Maybe. Maybe you would say it's impossible to lose weight or to gain weight. I've tried everything. Nothing works for me. All thoughts. I picked height and weight because they can be proven to be what they are with numbers. Anything outside of those numbers is a thought, your opinion or someone else's, maybe even a belief. Anything outside of those numbers of your height and your weight is a thought. We'll save beliefs for a future episode because that's really deep, okay? Let's bring it back to high level for now. It's important that you understand this concept. Okay, height and weight. Those are the first things that I gave you as an example of a circumstance. Here's another one. What your mother said, or your sibling, spouse, child, boss. Replace the character with the one that seems to trigger you the most. These are the most popular ones for any of us at any given time. Why? Because we crave love and acceptance, and we think we deserve them from these people, particularly, and through our own actions. So that's just something that we have learned over time, to crave love and acceptance from these people. And it definitely starts with our parents and it goes on from there. Okay? Again, a topic for another time, but for now, understand that what your spouse said to you is simply a circumstance. Maybe he said, "You really going to eat all that?" Seems a harmless enough statement to make, right? Is that what you're wearing? I mean, I don't think I even have to give you examples of how our brains will go spinning after such a question, right? But what's that supposed to mean? It means whatever you make it mean, you know? Like your response to, "Is that what you're wearing?" would be, What do you mean by that? You know, automatically go into that defensive mode, right? Your thought about something that was said or a question that was asked, something that comes out of someone else's mouth is what generates the feeling, the emotion that comes with it, not what that person said. I know that is really hard to get. I have a hard time, even now, with reconciling things that other people say. But it's all about a control thing, right? And we're talking about circumstances beyond our control. Cannot control what comes out of other people's mouth. Can control your reaction to it. I'm sure you've heard that one before, right? Your reaction is usually going to be based on your immediate thought about what someone said to you. So think about what your mother said, your sibling said, your spouse said, your child said, your boss said. Think about, put that character in place of what blank said is a circumstance. Exactly what he or she said. Okay? That post or comment on social media is exactly the same thing. And some of us have a little more control of the scroll than others when it comes to things that other people, especially those close friends and family members, post, right? Oh, no, she didn't. That's what other people say, what other people write. No, he did not just say that. It's always neutral until you craft that story in your head and you assign meaning to it. Very same thing. Same thing that comes out of people's mouths. What they text, what they write, what they post, what they say. All of it is neutral until you have a thought about it. Stay with me. COVID-19 seems so loaded right now. It's so big and ominous. It just feels that way because it is. The entire world is impacted by this virus. Yet it's no different in that neutral space that we're talking about as any other virus, illness, affliction, natural disaster, terrorist attack, or wartime battle. It's no different. On all of those things that I just listed are circumstance. Now, this is going to be hard, but stick with me. It's hard to assign thoughts to just COVID-19 in general, right? We have to break it down into, I suppose, what you could consider sub-circumstances, if you will. COVID-19 has spawned a whole slew of circumstances that we're still living in real time, right? Things like shelter in place, safe distance requirements, essential work, loss of job, closure of business, loss of life. All of these things are circumstances, and they impact each one of us differently because of our thoughts about them. Let's just take the simple one of shelter in place, right? The introvert says, I've trained my whole life for this. Yay! Netflix and chill, stay home, probably generates a feeling of contentment in that person, right? Because of the thoughts. Yay! I get to chill and stay home, right? The extrovert says, I can't stand being cooped up. I need human interaction. I miss going out to eat. And that may generate a feeling of emptiness and loneliness, those kind of thoughts, right? Some people do better with isolation than others. It's all because of our thoughts about it. And the essential worker may say, I see your anguish and I raise you the chaos I see at the grocery store, or the act of trying to save lives all day. You have no idea how it feels. Stop complaining. Probably generates something like resentment, right? The point is, we're all dealing with emotional spikes around the events of COVID-19, which is a neutral thing. And it's even easier for me to see it that way because of how everyone sees it differently. Meaning, everyone has a different thought about it, as I just used the examples of the introvert, the extrovert, and the essential worker, right? COVID-19 hasn't changed, or the shelter-in-place order hasn't changed. You know, those are the circumstances, but everyone has a different thought about it. So with the circumstance, and how you know it's neutral is that everyone agrees that shelter in place is a thing. Everyone agrees with that, right? not what to do about it. Notice I'm not saying what to do about it, but everyone would agree that there is an order in their city, their county, whatever, to shelter in place. It's written there. It is, it has been set forth by the government officials. It is a fact. So everyone would agree on that. Even the introvert, the extrovert, and the essential worker, all of them would agree on that part. So that is what makes it neutral. Everyone else's thoughts about it, that's where we get into this territory of really understanding how we are creating our own reality. And when we start assigning right and wrong to things, like the shelter in place, our own ideas of what that means, that's when we're immersed in the world of our own thoughts, our own opinions and beliefs, and we're no longer seeing the neutrality of circumstance. We're only seeing what we believe and what we believe to be right and wrong in our own dogmas and our own truths that we have created around the circumstance of shelter in place. Life and death. Let's talk about that. That's what it's all about, right? Life is to be celebrated and death is to be mourned. Are those absolute truths? No. The only thing that is absolute or circumstance is quite simply life and death. The celebration or mourning doesn't occur until we have a thought about it. When someone you love dies, that is simply a fact. And I don't mean to be cold about it at all. I have lost loved ones. I know it hurts. I know it hurts. But the death itself, it just is. It's what you think about it that brings the pain, the grief, all of the things that come with it. Those things don't exist until your thoughts come into the equation. Life just is. Death just is. Circumstance. Neutral. I know it's hard to hear, and it may even be hard to grasp at first. It may take some time to absorb and play around with this. Try it on, though. Try it on. Try on the understanding that all of these things that just are and that are neutral do not themselves impact your life in any way until your thoughts come into play. It's when we try to control circumstances that we bring ourselves the most anguish and frustration. When we truly are rendering ourselves helpless, and we're doing that. When we push back against a circumstance, we are resisting what is the absolute truth. Absolute truth is that number on the scale, that number of your height, that order that was written down by the city officials that says stay home. When we push back against a circumstance that just is what it is, that is when we suffer. That is how we cause our own pain. Not what others say and do, not COVID-19, not the birth of the child or death of a loved one. Knowing this is key to unlocking your power and your light. Because when you finally come to understand the difference between what you can control and what you cannot, your life will open up to endless possibilities. Hear me on this. Your life will open up to endless possibilities when you understand the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. When you carry this awareness with you on your journey in this life, your experience becomes so much different, so much more real, vibrant, lit up. I'm going to close with something I'm sure everyone has heard, some of us many times, but I want you to hear it differently now. I want you to really absorb these words with meaning of what you have just heard here. Hear these words differently now. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Sounds different to me now. I don't know about you, but I want you to really think about it. Where do serenity and courage come from? They're actually not granted by a higher power. They come from your thoughts. Serenity and courage come from your thoughts. Where does wisdom come from? Practice, practice, practice. Learn, grow, and practice along the way. Challenge yourself to separate the circumstances in your life from the thoughts you are having that are really driving your emotions. It's a fun exercise, I promise. And I'll tell you more on how to do that in future episodes. So which circumstances are beyond our control? Every fucking one of them. Start building the wisdom to know the difference. I'm Sunny the Life Coach, and you have been listening to Light the Fuck Up. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Sunny the Life Coach, or my website, sunnythelifecoach.com. I look forward to you visiting me again, and if you enjoy these episodes, you can leave me a review. That would be amazing. Or subscribe. Subscribe. Thank you so much for being here today, and talk to you soon.